nonsensical excuse. He had all the assets. He had all the tools. We were well prepared. It's just an unfortunate scenario. Today, Jesse, the curtain came down with the acting director, Routh. What did he say? The assets as directed by President Biden were in place yesterday. Do I understand that the President of the United States is dictating what is necessary for our Secret Service to keep our former president safe and sound? I thought the Secret Service operates under Homeland Security. Where's the Secretary of Homeland Security? Jesse, the curtain is down. Politics infected as it infected the FBI. It has now infected the Secret Service.
That's so brilliant that you picked up on that, because I didn't pick up on that. And we're going to go look at that again and rewatch that, because if that's true, he should have no fingerprints on that level of detail and resource with regards to protecting his rival.
The increased assets as directed by President Biden were in place yesterday, quote unquote.
Wow. All right. Stuart Kaplan, thank you as always. We really appreciate it. So how did a failed builder come this close to assassinating the former president? Ryan Routh has a rap sheet pages long. Over the last few decades, he was charged with stolen vehicles, drug charges, possessing weapons of mass destruction. His old neighbors in North Carolina say Routh was strapped and people were scared.
I've seen the guns myself and all, but yeah, they had a lot of guns over there and stuff and all, like I said. And a lot of people were afraid of him.
Routh didn't really have a steady job, eventually moving to Hawaii in his 50s. And when war broke out in Ukraine, he flew there to join the fight.
My initial goal was to come and fight. I think, everybody around the globe should be motivated to come here and support the Ukrainians and support the army, no matter what gender, age, anything. Everybody should be here supporting the army. But I'm 56, so initially they were like, well, I have no military experience, so they're like, you're not an ideal candidate. So they said, not right this minute. So plan B was to come here to Kyiv and promote getting more people here. We need thousands and thousands and thousands of people here fighting with the Ukrainians.
Here he is in front of the U.S. Capitol. Watch.
Over 100 soldiers every day, and pretty much everybody, all of my contacts in Ukraine, they were adamant and pretty much yelled at me every time that I suggested that we bring in Afghans.
People on the ground in Ukraine say Routh was not fighting material. He was a rabble-rouser. He spent months luring Afghan mercenaries to Ukraine by way of Iran, but the fighters would get stranded in Iran over paperwork. He was even on the New York Times radar.
He was very driven to help Ukraine, even though some of his ideas were completely nonsensical. I mean, he kind of spoke with the self-assuredness that he was going to get from A to B and nothing was going to get in the way, even though his plans were already running into major obstacles.
Routh even wrote a book about his time in Ukraine. In it, he says he regretted voting for Trump in 2016 and called on Iran to kill them both. Quote, "You are free to assassinate Trump as well as me for that error in judgment and the dismantling of the deal." He's talking about the Iran deal. Routh praised John Kerry, praised Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and recited the same Democrat slogans about Trump being a threat to democracy and needing to be stopped. So a convicted felon with no monies flying from Hawaii into Ukraine, talking to NGOs and the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, is in touch with Afghan soldiers for hire. And the U.S. government didn't flag that. And American citizens recruiting foreign fighters to fight in a war zone, to fight the Russians, and the New York Times is running profiles on them. An intelligence officer in Ukraine flagged Routh to the State Department, saying he was freelancing and out of control. So now we know the FBI and the U.S. State Department, and likely the CIA, was aware of Routh. American intelligence knows exactly which Americans come in and out of Ukraine, and which ones talk to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. And then the convicted felon with weapons of mass destruction charges flies back from Ukraine to our capital and lobbies Washington.